Peter. I call the October 11th, 2023 meeting of the Trees and Green Committee to order. And since we have a number of guests here, and probably we should do this for the benefit of our recording secretary every day, maybe we could have everybody around the table introduce themselves.
Okay. Pat Bagley, and good morning to everyone.
Dennis Sudo.
Assistant Mayor Joanna Kelly.
Peter Loughlin.
Richard Adams.
AJ Dupree. Michael Griffin.
Arborist Foreman Max Wader.
Peter Rice.
Thank you all very much. First thing on our agenda, the minutes from the September meeting. Anybody have any comments, questions?
Look good to me.
Accept them as is.
Thank you, Joanna.
Tree removal requests.
How do we want to see if there's anybody here for a specific tree and sort of start maybe getting people out of here first?
Yeah, let's do it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Is there anyone here for a specific tree removal request? Yeah.
We'll have you come up to just one of the mics and state your name.
It's the Norway Maple at 228 Willard.
Okay.
And would you give us your name, please?
Oh, sorry, Marcella Spruce.
So this is a part of the Willard Ave sewer separation project. Maybe are there others here for the Willard Ave sewer separation project? Maybe would it be appropriate just to have Zach or to come up and we can talk about that first, I suppose, or we can have, just because that is associated with the project and it's grouped with other trees.
Yeah.
Maybe
I don't really have an objection to it. I just have some questions about it.
Sure.
I don't have any objection to it.
About the tree removal itself or the project related?
The tree removal, just the processing.
Sure.
And stuff. So the tree is really poorly sited. I'm well aware of that. But I guess I wanted to know the timeline, and is there stump removal involved? What's involved with all of that?
So in terms of the timeline, Zach, why don't you grab a seat right there and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Zach Cronin, Assistant City Engineer and Project Manager for the Willard Ave Sewer Separation Project. So, sorry, could you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah. I'm just interested in what will happen with the actual removal, and is there a stump removal process? How does that the tree is pretty tight on my property. It's tight up against my driveway and tight up against the property.
Yes. So the tree removal process would be the contractor who wins the project hire a tree removal company. They remove the tree, and then either through removing the stump directly at that time, or we are replacing the sidewalks on that project as well. So when the sidewalk excavation comes through, it would remove the stump at that time, and then sidewalk replacement, and if that has a grass strip in that area, but it's loam and seed and restoration of the soil around where the stump was.
Yeah.
And chances are your driveway's going to be impacted by the construction of the utility improvement project anyway.
Right.
So your driveway's going to be up there.
Yeah, I think the tree is actually directly over the pipes.
Yeah.
It's
not uncommon.
Pipes almost positively would be replaced during the project.
Yeah.
Yes. So
David, just for record, could you introduce yourself?
Sorry, construction project manager, City of Portsmouth, Dave DeFosis.
Thank you.
So essentially the tree removal won't actually happen until the project gets underway. Is that correct?
Yes. And we're planning to bid this project sometime either this winter, late fall, November. So yeah, this year for construction in the spring and through next construction season. So 2024.
Okay. So we will be having a pre-construction meeting for the residents. And at that time, any other coordination type questions, sequence of construction, any questions you have related to that, who the players are, who the contractor would be,
everybody's contact information, and who to reach out to.
And is there any intention to replace it, or is it just a sort of a case by case?
It depends on the location. It depends on
we typically do try and replace something. I mean, of course, if it gets back and the green strip is 6 inches wide, we likely won't be replanting, but generally speaking, we've been pretty good about preparing for that and planting after the fact.
And we take into consideration residents' requests. If they're saying, no, I don't want it right there on the edge of my driveway, I'd like to have it moved over, or I have a space elsewhere, or I don't want it at all.
Okay. All right, great.
That grass strip will be 5 feet wide under the new project, so.
Beautiful. Plenty of room. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's gonna be a lot.
Yeah.
Significant.
But we can do some, as opposed to a full-size shade tree, we can do something more ornamental, something that just looks nicer and a little bit tighter.
Yeah, and isn't wound up in the wires.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you're under utility lines, we would likely plant some kind of ornamental that stays relatively short, like 20, 30 feet at most. So
Great. Great. Thanks. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we want to have somebody else on?
Yeah, it's more like.
We have a couple.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, also-
Go down the line.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Hi, my name is George Haskell. I have a house on 41 Wyford Street. And I just sort of wonder how these trees get selected, because there's nothing else on that street that's being selected for emerald ash forest. Does somebody specifically say, I don't like that tree over there? How does the system work?
Is this specifically for this construction?
Oh, no,
project?
this is-
Okay,
This is
sorry.
Wyberg for emerald ash borer. So that the tree itself, emerald ash borer, is this insect that just eats ash trees.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've been dealing with these all around the city. So there's others on this list. Emerald ash borer is a good tree killing insect, so the tree is likely to fail. So we're just trying to get ahead of the wave that's, going on around the city. So if people see it, they can call in, put trees on, the list to have the trees looked at. If we see trees, we can call Max and be like, hey, you got another ash, you got problems. So I'm not sure who found this one. It didn't say who found this one, but you guys found it when you were driving, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can maybe, Max, you can explain what you're looking for when you're identifying ash trees. that
Yeah,
need to be removed.
So we created some signage that we'll be posting around the city, but ultimately we're looking for declining canopy, water sprouts, bark separation, D-shaped exit holes. So ultimately, when we are out, I'm just driving around surveying or coming in and looking at the crew and the projects that they're completing for the day, and I happen to see an ash tree, I'll just go over and post it for removal, because there's really no other treatment option at this point in time. Once that tree is infested with those bugs, it really does destroy the tree. So.
And Max, on this particular tree, you've inspected it and found it infected?
Yeah, this is how scatterbrained I am, but I do want to just remind myself 41 Wyberg Street.
But the point, Max, too, is that it becomes a public hazard.
Yeah. So as the tree is going through its stages of decline, it's going to it could potentially drop large branches, whole sections of the tree can fail, and it can cause damage and injure individuals. So the plan currently is to just remove, stump grind, and replace the tree next spring. Something that's not an ash.
Yeah, there was some official of the city was wanting me to take a tree out of the backyard, which is an ash, which is probably 3 feet in diameter.
Okay.
And they probably talked to you about it. Now all of a sudden I see a tree in my front yard that is still fairly solid. It's about 2 feet in diameter. I planted that tree, I planted it probably 80 years ago.
Sure.
It does have some branches up there that are looking sad.
Yeah.
But there's worse trees on the street that have the worse condition than that. So I don't know whether that could be trimmed. There's the bark is all intense.
Yeah, so just as another clarification, so EAB, emerald ash borer, is a pest from abroad, right? It's from Asia. So it's not, none of our native trees have many defense mechanisms against that. So ultimately, when we do see signs of emerald ash borer, and like I said, we're not doing any other forms of treatment, it's just removal. So while you do, maybe there are, trees in worse condition in other places across the city, I think when it comes to our ash trees, we're taking a pretty, at least once we recognize that this tree has an infestation of EAB, we're being pretty proactive with as far as our removals go. So we're just getting ahead of it before, because the decline does happen pretty quick once it starts to sort of show itself in the tree. And like I said, we're just being proactive at this point in removing.
Yeah, there's a few branches that are, in bad shape.
Sure.
But the tree itself, and I understand that if one ash gets to the neighborhood or one in the tree, at some point, not all trees affected by emerald ash die.
No, that's
probably a larger percentage.
That's not it. I mean, are you familiar with Borthwick Ave? Are you like, there are places across the city where it's just dead standing ash trees in its entirety. Like, it's not, I anticipate all ash trees in the city of Portsmouth will be gone unless treated with insecticides, and we're not currently doing that. So at this point in time, again, it is a public safety concern, because once the tree does start to show the signs, that's ultimately it. Like, that's cause for us to come in and do the removal.
Yeah, the branches aren't very large on this tree, a lot of them.
So if we just prune those dead branches off, it's going to, like, the pest will continue to destroy the tree. So it's not like we can just prune and say, all right, we're good and we're all set. It's an ongoing thing that will continue until the tree is just completely dead standing. And that's why removal is our option at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm not a tree hugger, but I do like save the trees. We've had
absolutely
trees, you know.
Yeah, had to take I wouldn't be in my role if I also didn't really like trees and care for them. And this is sort of one of those historic events where, you know, we talk about Dutch elm disease, and we talk about, you know, all of these like old historic, still ongoing, but these historic events, and this is one of them.
If we're gonna just take the ones down that are on city property, what about all the other trees on your personal property, unless they start to deteriorate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the responsibility of the homeowner to take care of those trees.
Yeah, but again, at some point you wouldn't want to take it down. I just saw an emerald ash beetle up there until the tree gets really bad, and that was discussed with me by one of my neighbors that I should take it down, and it's like 3 feet in diameter, because there are ash grows in the neighborhood and somebody might get up in there. Well,
yeah, it depends on what the risk is. If it fails, if it's far enough away from your home or your cars or your shed, you can leave it until it falls down. That's your choice. However, if it was going to crush your house, I would recommend that you take it down.
Mr. Haskell, this committee anguishes over the removal of almost every tree that comes before us. And I guess we maybe appear to have gotten a bit blasé with the emerald ashes, because we've been talking about them now for 2 years, and everything that Max has said is going to happen is happening. And you see in certain neighborhoods, what seems like all of a sudden, every tree, ash tree in the area is on the section of Islington Street, and it just looks devastated on the opposite side from Plaza 800. And I think our normal preference is, hey, can't you just prune this back for a while? But with the emerald ash, unfortunately, it's a ongoing losing battle, and it's unfortunate, but it's what we're dealing with.
Even though some trees do survive, I mean, it looks solid now, but again, I can't be inside the tree.
Once the borer is in the tree, it's a death sentence, as I understand it.
It is.
Yeah. With no other treatments, it is a death sentence. And we're, as I had mentioned, that's just not something we are doing at this point in time.
Okay, well, I object to it, but again, I don't.
Okay, well, Mr.
How about you'll get my taxes next
meeting. Thank you.
Just as an anecdote too, so we had, I guess it was unintentional, but we did, as this individual was sort of suggesting, we ended up pruning a lot of those dead branches off of a tree just to, I guess now it's sort of an experiment, but I just got a notification from the homeowner where we did it, and it was off of Woodlawn Circle. The tree is completely stone dead now. So we pruned everything back to where there was some shooting or some activity, and that was last October. So as opposed to removal, we did that as you sort of suggested, and now it's just completely stone dead, and it's dropping branches all over this individual's driveway. So just as an anecdote. Cool. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Anybody else here for a specific tree removal request? Yeah.
Betsy Zender, from 305 Beverly.
Yeah, the 3 ash trees in Beverly Hill. Yeah.
Yeah, well, our concern is also the horses. Like that line of trees is protection and also shade for the horses in the field.
Okay.
So
a similar, sorry, just it's pretty much a similar argument, I suppose. So there are 2 trees that have pretty much completely dead tops, and then there's a 3rd tree that has a significant lean and some basal issues. So it's another EAB argument as well. It's one of those things where we wait and don't do anything, and then the trees ultimately start shedding large branches and destroy portions of your fence or potentially injure some horses. And then the same goes for that very strong leaning ash tree that I couldn't find any explicit exit holes. I did notice some blonding, but that's the best looking tree out of the 3, and it's got a significant lean, and there's a clear cavity at the base of that tree, which paired with the lean, paired with the road. I know that isn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that side of Beverly Hill where a path is going? Is that
Eventually,
yes. So eventually there's going to be some road construction on that side of the street. I mean, we're either doing it now or we're waiting until something, more catastrophic occurs, or until that road project commences. So we're sort of beating EAB to the complete decimation of these trees, or we're beating these other couple of projects that would ultimately still require the removal of these trees. So before it becomes this larger issue, that is why I've decided to post the trees for removal. And also because they're under power lines, I coordinated this with Scott Richardson, and he from Eversource and Northern Tree, they would be taking care of these removals for us. I can't speak to the project, ultimately what that may look like afterward, but as I mentioned before, whenever we remove trees, we always want to replant in there afterward. And I know that's sort of that's obviously farther along than what these 3 mature ash trees are currently providing for your horses, but that, again, that's sort of the best that we can do at this point in time, and get something else in there once the trees are removed.
It's pretty stark. Come out of Greenleaf Avenue and see those 3 trees and think of removing them. That was my reaction when I thought, oh, this is going to leave a real void.
Yeah, there's trees also like block headlights from shining into the house.
I understand. I know again, I just wish it wasn't the case, and emerald ash borer is very destructive. So I hope you can understand sort of where I was coming from in posting these trees. I don't relish in it. I'm not happy about it. But I do think there is some very valid safety concerns regarding these 3 trees. And especially if we are receiving support from Eversource and Northern to help take care of these, I think all the better.
Did you have something, John?
Oh, no.
Okay, is there, I don't know, any barter system we can do?
Barter system.
For people that aren't familiar with emerald ash borer and the issues and stuff like that, if you get on NHBugs, it's a website that we sponsor with Corporate Extension that shows pictures of ash trees in other parts of the state. It was basically found and conquered. Canterbury, Loudon, that whole area was hit very, very hard almost 10 years ago now. And we took down hundreds of trees in Loudon and Canterbury, helping out different organizations, helping out the town of Canterbury as a means to control it. It has spread statewide. Unless the trees are treated fairly early on, most of these trees are past treatment stage. As soon as we're seeing the insects escaping out of those trees, we know that there's hundreds of those insects in the trees. The woodpeckers find them usually before we do. So if you see a pileated woodpecker, or you see just, wood chips on the ground under an ash tree, it's loaded with emerald ash borer. And again, there's a chemical treatment. It's applied every couple of years. And you got to decide whether you're going to treat it, from now on or not. And most trees, as soon as we're seeing it or the insects are seeing it, the insect population is so high that our folks are not recommending treatment because, you're throwing good money at bad. And it's a tough situation.
Well, maybe the best that we could do would be if we were going to replant some trees in that area, work with Max and maybe try to pick some trees that grow really fast so that the shade comes back as quickly as possible.
But depending where that road project's going.
Yeah. So I might have to go further.
Utility lines are right there.
Right.
That road project. So we are sort of in a replanting, at least as far as where I'm at with replanting. It's sort of like, well, do we put smaller, like generally maturing shorter trees in there, but that's going to be providing you less shade, or do we plant full shade trees that will ultimately need to be pruned and maintained by Eversource, which is also sort of it's just conflicting in principle, I suppose.
Or do they plant them further away from the road?
Closer to the white fence that's there, which is always an option as well. And again, I'm not sure of the extent of that project, so it's such a nebulous thing.
The project's on the city's website as an active project. We're working with Department of Transportation to get the final design completed. It's very frustrating because it is a very long process, but it is moving forward, and we anticipate probably 2 years to start construction. There are designs already identifying, where the path is going to be. So we do know where trees could go without, impacting, but it would likely be on Tom's property to be able to do that. We're more than willing to work with y'all and put, if you're willing, we can put trees into your area away from the power line to provide that shade. It's an unfortunate situation. These trees are, their days are numbered, and it's a safety concern from our standpoint. So we need to be consistent, and if we're picking and choosing, we're just setting ourselves up for, potential issues, safety issues.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
And AJ, I don't want to disappoint you, but NH Bugs is probably not an app that's on most of our phones that we visit on a regular basis.
We have another removal. Is it this one? Yeah, come on in.
Hello, my name is Alice Carey. I live at 236 Hillside Drive, right off of Greenleaf Avenue. I'm here to talk about the tree on, I think it's a silver maple on Greenleaf Avenue. So to my knowledge, this tree was recommended for removal as a set of recommendations for better pedestrian environment in the area. Better visibility would be provided by taking this tree down. And I just want to advocate very strongly against that measure. There were many, many other solutions as part of that set that I think we could easily employ without killing a healthy, what appears to be a healthy, mature tree in our neighborhood. So I'm sure we can find ways to cross the street and have a calmer traffic environment without doing that. So,
Eric, would you mind coming and speaking to that for us?
Good morning. My name is Eric Eby. I'm a traffic engineer for the city of Portsmouth. And this issue came before us at the Parking Traffic Safety Committee, and we were looking for ways to increase pedestrian safety for students and anybody walking out of the Hillside Drive neighborhood across Greenleaf and then crossing Lafayette. So we are doing other measures. We've put in the speed feedback sign on Greenleaf Ave, telling drivers how fast they're doing coming down the hill from Lafayette. We've put in a pedestrian warning sign, and we will be putting in flashing lights at the crosswalk on Lafayette. One other item that we noticed during our field inventory was this tree, the silver maple at the intersection of Greenleaf and Hillside, and it does block, because of the diameter of the trunk, and its proximity to the intersection, it does block sight lines of cars coming down the hill from Lafayette. And unfortunately, they are going faster than the speed limit. They're doing about 29 miles an hour. Even with that tree removed, the speeds would you still have limited sight lines because of the curve in the road. But it would improve the situation, but it wouldn't fix it entirely. So, other measures, there's possibility maybe in the future of sidewalks or easements, but those are long-term plans that can't be done shortly. So as one of the several measures that we were recommending was the removal of this tree to improve the sight lines. But again, it wouldn't be a fix. It wouldn't fix everything out there.
Question, Eric. The other improvements, when did those start?
The speed feedback sign is in place now, and the pedestrian warning sign is in place now, and the flashing lights at the crosswalk will be installed shortly. We still have to just build dig the foundations for them and move the equipment over there.
I just wondered if it's possible to just look at this in a phased approach. So try the ulterior solutions and then come back maybe in a little bit and look at, if those have reduced some of the impact, and if not, then we can look at the tree again.
Mm-hmm. So we can obviously do that. There is a significant outcry from your neighborhood relative to safety. And, we're trying to be responsive to those requests. If your neighborhood is comfortable with holding off, we can the tree's obviously been there for a very long time. The change in condition is that the ABC buildings have put up a fence, which is a cut through where pedestrians have been using forever. And it's now pushing more pedestrian traffic down to that intersection. So, it's obviously we're respectful of the desires of the residents. And, at the same time, we want to be as proactive as we can in terms of addressing a safety concern. It is a healthy tree. It has been there for probably 80, 90 years. But in my mind, if it is blocking and then you can improve safety, it is something that I would be supportive of removing. So, it's the committee, we've kept trees many times in these types of situations, and we can agree to disagree, and that's fine.
My reaction was that everybody that is, and I don't know about pedestrians, but my reaction, every person that has exited Hillside Drive onto Greenleaf Avenue in the last 10 years, 20 years, has had that tree where it is now. And I thought, well, maybe this real push from the neighborhood to have it removed. I don't know how it developed to this point, at least in terms of safety from a car looking to the left.
Yeah, this is not a vehicular concern. This is a pedestrian concern.
The majority of people in that neighborhood used to walk essentially to the back of the neighborhood to get onto Lafayette from the ABC buildings, and now they're since that's fence line, they're pushed to walk onto that street, which is much more narrow. Cars are going.
Correct. Yeah, it's a new place where we have to walk where we didn't really have to before. Right.
Have the ABC people been approached about?
Yes.
The fence?
Yep.
And
they're not receptive to removing the fence at this time. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean we won't continue conversations and seeing what options are available. But in the near term, the residents have been very clear that they're concerned about the safety of children and pedestrian, adults crossing that area. So it puts everybody in a very difficult situation. When safety concerns are raised, it's incumbent upon the city to address them as best they can.
Mm-hmm. Max, you could get a little bit of view out of that. I drove around that loop a couple of times and just lift up. It's not going to solve the problem of a 24 Chevy street, but you could lift the bottom of that.
Historically, we've gone through and pruned, water sprouts growing at the base, which is very obviously something that's easy to fix. And then, AJ is correct. We can do some pruning, of course. That's It's not a perfect solution, but it certainly maybe buys us a little bit more time. Gives a little bit more clearance, a little bit more sightline clearance.
Yeah, I guess I just reiterate, as a resident of the neighborhood in question who has children that need to use these sidewalks, I'm comfortable with the tree being there. And I'm sure that these many other measures can be employed first before we start taking down trees to solve the problem.
I own property on Hillside Drive and have for 25 years. And as you probably know, Hillside is a horseshoe-shaped road with a north exit and a south one. And for 25 years, I've felt that pulling out on the north one, if you want to go up towards Lafayette, is like playing Russian roulette. It's the fact that it's been this way for years and years, and people haven't gotten killed is a source of amazement to me. As in terms of driving, I think the proper technique is, which I always use now, is to use the south leg of Hillside, and there you have a decent sight line. Clearly, that tree, if we could start from scratch, would not be planted today. It's in a terrible location, and I think it's lamentable that these ABC people have closed off access to children to get to school. But as it now stands, for them to walk on Greenleaf around that very sharp curve, I think is inviting real problems. So with great regret, I would recommend taking the tree down.
This is, Mr. Chair, this is still a public comment, and we haven't officially taken up the discussion of all these items. So, we appreciate the concerns and feedback.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
There's some folks on line as well.
Yes. Perfect. I'll finish this loop and then.
Morning. I'm Alex Greiner. I'm the homeowner at 88 Lincoln Avenue. Live there with my wife and two young daughters. I'm really only here for safety. So largest beautiful silver maple. We actually I will call it a sister tree that unfortunately had to come down last year because it was in very tough shape. This tree, I love having the tree there. I'm sure like neighbors do as well. But every storm we've had, some meaningful branches and things have come down. At the beginning of September, a very large limb fell down. Fortunately, it only landed in our yard. It damaged some of our fence, which is obviously fixable. But my big concern is our girls' bedrooms are on that side. If any of those larger limbs came down, it would absolutely risk having them fall into bedrooms. So secondary damage to our house, obviously, to be displaced would be very unfortunate. But number one reason is just for safety. I would love for another tree to be planted there if that's possible. I don't think it was at the location right next to it. Because it'd be unfortunate not to have any trees there from when we moved in. But I'd just ask again in support of taking this tree down from a safety and safety number one, and from just a property second. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sean Creeley. I live at 337 Richards Ave. There's two trees that are on the removal list. I want to save those two trees, to be honest with you. So I both put them on, and I'm asking you guys to basically deny us my ability to remove those, which I guess is confusing. We are trying to do an addition to our house. The zoning board is asking us to cut the curb on Richards, which would mean that we would have to remove one of those two trees. I would not like to remove those trees, so I'm looking for your help in denying my request to remove those trees. So we can go back to the board with that that note, basically. I get this is a weird position and probably not one that you've seen before. But there's plenty of room on Lincoln to put a driveway, et cetera, and one car garage. Cutting the curb on Richards would drastically change that neighborhood, as well as cause the removal of two beautiful trees that we do not want to lose. So that's my only comment here.
So, Mr. Chairman, when this comes up, I would recommend we table this and circle back with the planning department. I would not recommend countermanding without clear understanding of why their decisions were made relative to this. We try to work in conjunction with other parts of the city. So I would suggest giving us time to investigate why this would be appropriate. I'm not adverse to saving the trees, and I'm sure there may be an opportunity for education. So I just would, when it comes up, I would recommend that we table it.
I just ask that you do that within 7 days here, because the next zoning board meeting is on the 17th.
I think I would, I don't know that I'm concerned about interfering with the zoning board, but I think I would want to make it clear to that at least my feeling, and I suspect most of the board, is that unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't see why you'd want either of those trees taken down, especially the swamp white oak.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate is that we don't have sightline plans. We don't have other options. We don't have, I think, enough information to make a decision, which is why I would agree with Director Rice to unfortunately table.
Sure. The problem is I'm in a chicken and egg situation, right, where I can't get a variance for that garage. When they then tell me to come here and say, oh, could just cut the curb and take down those two trees, I come here and you guys deny me for that. So like, then I have to go back to the zoning board again on a third time in order to do that, right? So I guess I'm just, obviously, like, we live in a bureaucracy in Portsmouth, which is completely fine. I'm just asking that it gets, I know, dealt with before the 17th or so that we're not going back 3 and 4 times paying for all those lawyers, et cetera.
Can I ask a question? If you already have a driveway?
Yes, sir.
Lincoln?
Yes, sir.
So I guess I'm confused in the parts of this. You're looking to build something else in your backyard. We didn't. We were just there this morning. We wanted to look over your fence.
Oh,
we did. We didn't.
You should have. Come on.
Dennis and I were walking around. We're trying to figure out what the issue.
Our current garage is 1 foot from the property line.
There's a 1-car garage. We did see that.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Even if we were to move that in 10 feet and make that that situation better, we would still need a variance, because technically that's our backyard, not our side yard, which is confusing to me as well.
Sure. Yeah.
So it would need to be 20 feet, and you can't put a attached garage and keep that main building where it is with that. So they would basically said, like, you got plenty of room on Richards, go look at Richards. We are opposed to that. And it would require the removal of 2 trees in order to make that happen, right? Sure. So even if we were going to deny it on the 17th again, I'd be here in a month and a half asking for those 2 trees to be removed. You'd then tell me no, right? And so then I'd go back to the variance board with that hardship in place, et cetera. So I'm trying to at least basically make this more of a discussion between the two of you all about this.
If I may, Mr. Chair, what is the driver in terms of the deadline? I mean, if you're just doing construction, that last portion could wait in terms of.
I can't, because I'd have to switch the entire design of the.
I'm not saying don't, so right now the approval says you need to remove that tree to be able to create a new driveway to your property. So you're abandoning the old driveway. You're going to be doing construction. The construction is going to take quite a while. So if you're doing the construction, the last portion you have to really worry about is getting access to the Richards for the new driveway, correct?
No, I don't think so. I think you've got to make the decision now as to where the driveway is going to be, because that's going to dictate where the
drive's going to go.
Right. But so what is their reason? They say the trees are too close to the driveway?
If I were to put the garage on Richards, there's nowhere to get a 24-foot garage or the 2-car garage on Richards without taking down one of those trees.
All right, and you understand you'd lose your other driveway, correct? In that process.
Right. I do not want to put the garage on Richards, right? Like I am seeking to keep the garage or keep the driveway in its current location on Lincoln Ave, where it's been for the last 110, 20 years, right? And build an addition there. I need a variance in order to do that. We were denied by for our first variance by the city of Portsmouth because they wanted us to put it on Richards, right? So I went through the process of contacting the planning works department of saying, hey, can I cut this curb? They said, yes, you can cut the curb, but you need approval to remove those 2 trees in order to do so.
But
right.
You don't want to do that.
I do not want to do that.
I'm really uncomfortable with this, Mr. Chairman, but you know, the board can, or the committee can do what the committee does.
I think the struggle is to do, and this is far beyond this one project, that there's not been a lot of instances where like a ZBA or planning information has come to us before this like removal request. So I think in the future, we need to develop some type of flow where we would get this information in your site plans prior to this.
I would love that.
Which is, again, unfortunately, again, chicken and egg situation. Right. It's hard to see the other option. You know what I mean?
But could we just leave it as, you know, we would vote on whether we want the tree in or out or not,
right,
and let Peter or somebody here be a conduit, you know, with that, you know, through that board, just like we let Max decide on a tree. Some days Max has to make an infield decision. Peter would reach out to whoever in the planning board.
But so the concern I have is if there's an alternative to taking these trees down.
Yep, and where his current garage is.
Right, but it's imagine the next door neighbors coming out against this
and that's we don't know.
We don't know.
Right.
We don't know whether, you know, what the input, why the decision from the Board of Adjustment.
Right.
I had letters of support from both neighbors.
I appreciate that, but we are not the Zoning Board of Adjustment. The Zoning Board of Adjustment makes decisions.
I agree, and I'm not. That's why I think we need to talk about the Zoning Board of Adjustments. We need to talk about those 2 trees and whether those 2 trees should be removed or not. And I think that's completely within your remit, right?
Yes, it's just I think the trouble that I'm having is we just don't have that information to make the full have the full conversation about it, which is not your fault, which is not, you know, it was submitted the way it was, but it's, again, I think what Peter's saying, it's hard for me to go against the decision of the ZBA.
You're not going against the decision of the ZBA. Well, you're making a statement about those trees. Do we want to keep those trees or do we not keep those trees? Right. So if I came here without any of that information associated with it, would you tell me to keep those trees or would you tell me to that I could remove them?
And that's really my question. If we didn't have this background information about the ZBA, we would still be deciding on, I think I know the way the vote would go on whether we remove those trees, and has nothing to do with what he's requesting to deny.
It's, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Pat.
It's unusual situation, and it seems like a hot potato right now.
So it could be dueling hardships. From our perspective, typically we say if there's an alternative, we do not want a tree taken down.
Right.
So we could say, you know, we're not seeing justification for removing this. There is an existing driveway. There is opportunity that's already been impacted. So we do not understand why.
Perfect.
Why we need further justification to remove these trees. So at this point, we would say the trees should not be removed.
Well,
and that would give him the ability to say
what you just said, that we absent further justification, we would not approve the removal of these trees, and I for one don't see it right now. Maybe it's someplace, but what we have before us, I don't see the basis for granting approval to remove these trees.
I agree.
And just knowing that the ZBA we may have to rediscuss this at our next meeting, because the ZBA could then
which would be fine.
Submit their reasoning.
Right, which would be fine.
Mr. Chair, if I could make a motion to take this out of turn and because we've been in public comment,
yes.
to vote on this now.
So moved.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And seconded by Pat.
Yes.
And do we have, what is the motion? What Peter just said that we.
To deny removal of those trees.
Yes.
Okay.
I will be abstaining from the vote.
Would we be looking for clarification from, or do we just want to make the blanket motion?
I think we make the blanket motion.
Well, I think we should say.
We haven't seen hardship. There's no justification for the removal of the trees.
Okay.
It's not exactly our standard, but fine.
Okay.
Want to vote on that motion?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Hi, this is Deb here.
Oh, hi, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Hi, everyone. I agree. Thank you.
Mr. There are a number of people online that have had their hands raised. We could, Stacy Gibson.
Good morning.
Hi. A specific tree you'd like to speak to?
Yep, I'm at 48 Hillside Drive, and I wanted to also comment on the maple on Greenleaf and basically just echo what Alice said, that if the tree is otherwise healthy, I would support leaving it up while the city is working on other calming traffic calming measures, which we really appreciate everything that's happened so far. I do pull out of that side of Hillside multiple times a day, and I also cross the street with my family as a pedestrian, and I do not think that the tree is the problem. So that's my thoughts on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Jeffrey Brody.
Jeff Brody.
Hi, this is Jeff Brody. I live at 3 Hillside Drive. And I've advocated before to get that tree removed since I moved in 10 years ago. It does ruin the front of my property. The fact that it's surface roots has not enabled me to do anything with my front lawn. If I do anything with my front lawn, I'll destroy half the roots on the tree. The my sewer system requires clean out every couple of years due to root structure, because I have a 120-foot line going out from my house down the street to the culvert that's at the opposite end of the street on Greenleaf, and multiple times a year, I'm out there cutting shoots off the bottom of that tree. This summer, I cut about 30 shoots off that tree, some of which reached 4 feet into the street. So although it's a beautiful tree, it's grown way beyond its ability to stay where it is. It's also ruining the retaining wall in my front yard. So it is an eyesore. It's not an eyesore. It's a sightline problem. I've had multiple people leaving my property. I've also watched people, even Stacy, pull out further in the Greenleaf than required so that they can see up the street. Everybody does it that pulls out of the north side of Greenleaf. So I advocate for taking it down. It's definitely a safety hazard in my mind. I've watched my neighbor across the street drive all the way around the loop just to get out every day. So it's up to you guys to make a decision whether you want to remove it or not. But it does require pruning every year, and it doesn't get pruning every year. And I don't know. I would personally like to see it taken down so that I can fix the front of my property.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey.
Jane. Michelle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jane Mitchell-Pate. I am a resident on Hillside Drive as well, and I want to echo what Jeffrey said. I support the removal of the tree on the corner. I live at 175 Hillside Drive, and I always drive out the southern side and walk out the lower side because it's too difficult to see around that tree, both driving and or walking. And I think while we do have some safety measures that the city is putting in to help with the traffic pattern around the intersection at Greenleaf and Lafayette, and I do really appreciate those, there is not as much that we can do about Greenleaf with the traffic pattern, especially in the short term, but the removal of the tree really would help with like the visibility and sight line, and just improve safety. So just want to echo what Jeffrey said.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody's hand risen, but Katie Grenier's on there. Katie, did you want to?
That's my wife. I think she's just probably.
Okay. All right, enough.
I think she is like
anybody else? No one else online?
Things have rapidly changed and the traffic is.
You're going to mute Jane.
Okay.
Did you want to make your same motion, take that out of order?
Sure. Let's make a motion to take the Silver Maple on Greenleaf Ave out of order.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So, how do we want to start this?
Can I ask Eric for some clarification on this? I drove in and out of Greenleaf actually in a couple different size vehicles, and this tree isn't the only problem, as you fully admitted, and I just pulled it back up. Is there any thought about ever making Greenleaf one way right there?
Here, we have considered that. Yeah. We're looking, the intersection of Greenleaf and Lafayette, because of the geometrics, it needs to be reconfigured. And along with that, there could be a possible traffic flow change. We floated the idea to the neighborhood a few years back. There wasn't a consensus as to which way the direction the traffic would go. Police and fire like to have the emergency vehicles be able to get to the bypass and then get to Wamisit Place on the other side on Greenleaf.
Okay.
The other side of bypass. So it would make sense to probably keep it going towards the bypass. And coming up the hill, it's difficult to make a left out of
the curve, the hill. Like there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no good solution to that intersection.
Yeah, it's a tough spot.
It's challenging.
And it does help when we have the bike lane in operation with the white bollards at the top. That does help slow the traffic coming down there somewhat. But still, we're still seeing speeds of 29 where it's posted at 20. It's just it lends itself to high speed going down that road.
Yeah, it's a cut through, and you try and take a right. And
yep.
Avoid the intersection, and we all do it.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Chair, Katie's hand is up.
Katie?
That's my wife. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I did. I raised my hand because I didn't know if it's possible. I took a video of the big branch that fell off the silver maple in front of my house during one of the storms. And this was like a small branch, but I didn't know if it was possible just to show the video of like what even a small branch does to our property.
Katie, I appreciate the opportunity to see the video, but we're well aware of the damage that tree limbs can have. So I don't believe you need to reinforce that with a video.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
So where we at?
Yeah,
You want to start, Joanne?
Not really. No. I frequent that area too, and I agree with the assessment that everyone has that I would feel more comfortable completely removing the tree if it would be a cure-all or even really advance some of the safety. I would be more comfortable with a heavy bottom-up prune and then reassess based on as that area gets looked at more as some of the other things get implemented, and then I would be comfortable maybe coming back in with the removal request. But right now I think if it like I said, I think if it would fix the solution or make it 90% safer or you know what I mean, then I would say okay. But I think we need to give some of these other things a little bit of time, prune, better sight line and go from there.
I'll take that as a motion to postpone for 90 days.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion now on the floor.
Postpone and prune?
Postpone.
Postpone and prune.
I guess if Max thinks that.
I mean, it's certainly better than removing the tree. So if there's a way to increase that line of sight without removal, you can absolutely give it a try. I do just want to, does anyone know the context of the tree that was removed opposite on the other side of Hillside right there? So at that intersection, there's a stump that hasn't been grounded or anything. I just don't know if that's also, if that tree was removed under similar, yeah, it's right behind that fire hydrant. There is another stump there. I don't know if there was a precedent set for trees being removed right there at the intersection. I just wanted to comment on
We
that.
voted on 3 trees that came out.
No, but the one he's speaking about is about 10 years old.
Was it? Okay.
And this committee, the few of us who were around at that time voted to remove it. And it was a sightline issue. And that greatly improved the sightline issue. As far as pruning,
oh wow, okay.
As far as pruning goes, I don't see how that would make any difference because the visual obstruction is the trunk portion of the tree.
I mean, really, when you're sitting in a vehicle, how tall are you sitting in a vehicle trying to look around pretty much, the main stem of this tree. Yeah. Pruning, of course, could help if you're in a higher seated vehicle, but then again, I don't see, not to completely recant the statement I just made. I think pruning could help, obviously, right? Like it could. The fact that there are no water sprouts at the base of the tree, that's obviously a plus, but it really doesn't take away the fact that really the main stem of that tree is what's causing this line of sight issue. So I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy to try, but obviously I don't think we'll get quite the same
effect as complete removal.
Yeah.
Well, in order to move this thing along, promote a vote, I move that the tree be removed.
I'll second.
Well, we have a motion.
We have a motion. We have a motion not to.
Motion right now is to postpone and prune.
Postpone 90 days, see how the other things that were implemented from park and traffic safety may have a positive effect, and then revisited 90 days.
So why don't we vote on that motion? All in favor of postponing and pruning, raise your hand. Oh, hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I agree.
7. I guess that motion passes. And is it possible for someone to, maybe someone who's already done, explore the possibility of dealing with the fence, dealing with the ABC people?
We're currently having discussions. It is something that, obviously, I've lived in town for, close to 35 years. And I've used that area frequently because friends of mine have lived out there for a long time. So I understand the importance of that connection. However, I also respect private property and understand, if somebody does not want people walking across their property.
Probably don't complain when we go in and visit
So
one of
how
the
many
doctors
no
there.
votes
But
were there on that motion?
We're 7 ayes and.
Did we not take no votes?
well, I guess I was assuming all opposed would be 2. So 3. Oh, I'm sorry. So 7 to 3.
Okay.
Did I get counted as an aye?
You did. You did.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'm thinking back to the
back to order.
Back to the order.
Could we take 88 Lincoln because the homeowners here?
Yeah,
as well.
I'll second that.
Okay, 88 Lincoln. Silver Maple.
Move to remove.
Motion to remove. I'll second it.
Is there any discussion about 88 Lincoln?
Was this tree compromised in any way when you put in your
utilities? I can give a little bit of history on this. So when I first started in September of 2019, we had responded to that tree because there was some root damage done when the house was being renovated. So we did remove a very large leader going toward the property. We also returned a few other times to do like a full deadwood prune very soon after that. And then as well as last September, we also did a pretty heavy prune of a leader going over the structure as well. So, you know, there's a lot of water sprouts on that tree as well. So that kind of suggests to me that the tree is stressed out enough to start sending that out. The fact that there was that root damage in the past, the fact that we've been there multiple times pruning, I think as I guess when we have silver maples of this size, we do heavy reduction pruning called retrenchment pruning. I don't know if that would be if this is an appropriate use case for this tree, just because there are so many other things going on with it that I think removal for me is probably the end all be all. It's just there are too many variables related to this tree that I think just removing it outright should be the way to go. Although it is a very large tree, was there another one beside it? There was. My understanding was that was related. I believe there are utility lines in that area. My understanding is Eversource said potentially prune that, and then they actually ultimately removed it for us. That had some pretty significant structural issues.
We did curbs and sidewalks in that area a long time ago.
Was that okay?
Cut into a lot of those routes.
So that's some good context that I wasn't entirely aware of. So yeah, there's obviously other potential for even additional potential for more root damage from that sidewalk.
But that was done
years ago.
Yeah, a long time.
18 years ago.
And in terms of the pruning, is the concern about the limbs falling onto the home, can that be addressed with pruning?
Yes. However, there are some pretty large sections of included bark on that tree. So that maple, like if, you know, from where you're standing at the base, there are pretty significant, you know, sections of included bark with very large pieces of wood. So I think that would help remove a lot of that sail and potential for limb failure, but I don't think it's going to really solve like an even greater problem as I see it.
Do we have a motion on this?
Yeah, motion to remove.
Okay.
I seconded it.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you.
Opposed?
Okay, so opposes, so it's 8-2 to recommend removal. Okay, 41 Wyber, Mr. Haskell still here?
Did we, Greenleaf Ave at Beverly Hill, did we?
Oh, okay.
I don't think we've commented on those.
Move to remove.
Second.
Any discussion of Greenleaf at, I suspect everybody to thinking of that. All in favor of recommending removal on Greenleaf? Okay, all in favor. Looks like everyone's in favor.
Aye, Deb.
So that 10-0. 88 Lincoln, 41 Wyber Street. Mr. Haskell spoken.
Can we do the Miller? 33 Miller?
We did not do 33.
No.
No, I was just doing the people that.
Oh yeah, over here. Sorry. Move to remove.
Second.
I'm wondering on if our vigilance is and I understand what your approach is, but when a tree looks really healthy. If I was Mr. Haskell, I would have been here saying, why are we cutting it down now? And although knowing what you've told us that we know what it's going to be, but I probably would have been reluctant to consider it now.
So I when we have situations like this, if we're going to spend the time to do a prune and we're meticulously going through and pulling out all this dead wood, that's going to be double the time it would take to remove, when inevitably we know, right, that this tree will just be dead standing. So at least for me and how I sort of look at work, I'm like, well, this is a, 2 to 3 hour removal, or it's a 4 to 5 hour prune potentially, and then we'll just be back anyway to remove. So at least as far as sort of how I'm framing when I look at removals such as this, I'm like, well, it just makes sense to remove and then get something in there a year earlier, right? Like plant something else and, give it that little bit of a head start versus pruning, coming back, removing, waiting to stump grind, waiting till the next planting season to get another tree in there. So I sort of look at it as just this kind of a time saving
efficiency.
Thanks.
Yes. Thank you. That's the word. Efficiency.
We have a motion. We have a motion to remove.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. The
33 Miller.
33 Miller.
Same scenario. I would move to remove.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Greenleaf Avenue. Do we do Greenleaf Avenue? Yeah, we did.
Yes, we did.
Hill, Hillside Drive.
99 Wybird. So this is pretty quick. It's just an apple that sorry, I didn't mean to go ahead of you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
So 99 Willer, just when we were looking at the sewer project, I had just seen this tree in passing, thinking that it looked poor. Went back and saw some like a 10-year-old photo, and the tree has just been pretty stunted for a long time. And then homeowner cuts revisible. So obviously that tree has been in a pretty rough spot of decline for a while. So I just wanted to post it and remove it and get something else in there. So
I make a motion to remove it.
Second.
Second by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
About that chestnut.
So just for me, so I was out there, we had pruned this tree a couple of months ago. Tree looked in pretty decent condition. There is that large cavity on the, so if you're staring straight at it from roadside, there's a large cavity on the right about maybe 7 feet from the ground with other plants growing out of it. And then on the opposite side, when I had seen it again, there was a very large fruiting body. And then if you go to Google Maps, there's a photo from 2011 there. It looks like there's a significant basal wound, that there's very little activity where that fruiting body was coming from. So I just, in my mind, I just figured, and also this is Eversource will be helping us with this tree as well. They're going to have a crane down on Lincoln for that very large ash removal. They're going to knock these two out in pretty much the same day. So at least as far as us and that anyway. So yeah, large cavity and then large fruiting body on the opposite side, telling me that there's something structurally going on and high potential for decay.
I probably wouldn't use the word knock these two out.
Sorry. Poor choice of words. My apologies.
So do we have a motion on that one?
I would move for removal.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Does that take us to the police station? Here at the police station.
And did we do 99 Broad?
Oh, okay.
99 Broad. So a recent storm had knocked out a significant portion of this tree, leaving a pretty large tear. It's a pear. This happens all the time, and it's we just figured we'd like to remove it and get something else in there.
Okay, a motion to Dennis makes a motion, seconded by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Now the police station.
Yeah. So we had, if if you had gone out and looked, we had already pruned a lot of those arborvitae. So we had taken probably about 50% of that canopy just to achieve what the police were asking of us to free up those cameras. So in removing the two on the corners of the building, that'll give them just long-term clearance for their security cameras. That's a garage and also an evidence storage location. So it's critical that they keep that open and available to them to access the cameras and ensure that everything is all set. And then there's a crabapple tree right there as well to the right of the building. For similar reasons, they'd like to see the whole row of cars behind that crabapple. So removing that, the two arborvitae, and then there's a failing Norway maple that's on the right hand side coming in from the street.
And it's more than just the security camera. They're pretty sad species in that you probably want to get rid of them anyway.
Yeah.
So, do you have a motion for removal on that? Those
Second.
okay, but Joanna, seconded by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, Deb. Panaway Manor Phase 2. We have David DeFos is here, but I don't think we have anybody here concerned about the project itself. Yeah, I'm sure you've done a number of public hearings.
I'm going to just give an introduction real quick. Mark Batchel is here, who's actually the project manager for the project. So Mark can come up and he'll talk about the project. But as you know, we were here last year. We agonized over removing quite a few of the trees that were in there, and I must say that we got overwhelming positive feedback on Mark's project to put the sidewalks through there in the spring. I think the neighborhood is in general very happy, and I will point out that we don't have anybody here because one of the things that we aspired to is in the final project meeting was setting up the neighborhood to do the interior part of the Panaway neighborhood and put a sidewalk in that section. So in the spring project, we went all the way around the entire perimeter, and then Mark also built sidewalks down Sherburne and Greenland roads, so that Panaway now has more or less full access to the sidewalk system to get into town. So that was a huge boon for the neighborhood. I think we knocked it out of the park. Literally, we're just here today to do, was there 6 tree removals on the interior, which is Mason and remind me? Decatur. And just so we can finish the kind of the commitment that we made to the neighborhood to put the sidewalk on one side on the 2 interior streets. We've made decisions based on minimal impact. So we've already picked which side would have the least impact. So we've already gone through that iteration before coming here with you. And we're looking for approval to remove these trees so that we can finish the commitment that we made to the neighborhood.
You're right.
Mark can take over
everything right on this from beginning to end. I think dealing with the public and the way the work was done efficiently, promptly. It looks great, and congratulations. And I think we can just have a motion to recommend removal.
This will be the final scope of work.
Yeah, this will be the final scope of work for the Panaway neighborhood. And we also resurfaced the entire neighborhood too. So Panaway is looking great if you go out there.
Yeah,
that's great.
One other thing to note that we've been working with Max, and we've been sending out notices. We've already sent out notices at the outer ring area to all the homeowners where we've identified potential places for new trees to be planted, and we identified upwards of 50 potential locations, and so we've already sent out notices to the homeowners where they get to pick through a set of 5 or 6 trees. So we're anticipating those plantings going in the spring.
Great.
On the outer.
Right.
That's
wonderful.
awesome. Nicely done.
We have a motion to recommend removal of the Panaway Manor side cross phase 2.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
Seconded by Joanna. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
I think yes.
Willard Avenue Sewer Separation Project.
Yeah, so our second project. So we got Zach Cronin here with Phil Corbett from CMA Engineers, and So this is the second of it was really a twin project that CMA has been working with us on. Right now we're building Union Street, and the work on Middle Street all summer had to do with the Union Street project. And the other part of the project that Phil's been working on is this Willard Ave area, and going through and really finishing the neighborhood project that was started. We talked about it a little bit this morning. We started 18 years ago when we started the Lincoln area. So this is kind of like the final phase of that neighborhood project, where we're going through and we're fixing the sewers and the drains in that neighborhood to do sewer separation. One of our goals also as part of this project is to actually run drain pipes across Lafayette Road so that we can deal with the drainage issues in Lafayette Park. So all of that is part of this project. I will let Zach and Phil take over the presentation, but we're working on this for over a year and we're ready to almost go out to bid. We're going to be going out to bid next month for this project, hopefully starting in the spring.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, Phil Corbett, CMA Engineers. Right, so critical sewer separation project, but we did work a lot with city and the neighborhood to try to contextually design things. There is different things going on with some smaller neighborhood roads and busier roads with higher pedestrian demands and different widths and parking on some of the roads and not. So we went through a couple iterations of the cross sections of the road, as well as the layout. We walked with Chuck, Mac's predecessor, early on in the development and identified there were some really important key trees up here on Orchard that we wanted to make sure we had absolutely no impacts to. And so we started there and then revised the section, added sidewalks where we needed to, got rid of some. We only have sidewalk on one side of Ash Street. We eliminated the sidewalk on the extension of Orchard down over here where it's really narrow. And then just have a sidewalk on one side of Orchard, which allowed us to save lots of trees on both sides of the road and throughout there. So I think there's 5 trees kind of throughout the corridor of Willard and Orchard. And then there's several here. I don't know if they all qualify. Some of them, I don't know what the threshold is, but there's 5 or 6 little maples on the corner that were right along the edge of the pavement that we have included as well. But we walked those with Max, and some of them I think were not in great condition anyway. A lot of them are under the power lines, and I don't know that there was any of those that were much of concern from that perspective.
While this is
Zach?
Sorry. The other part of this is it is a sewer project, but we are redoing the streetscape in order to tie it into, you can see Willard from Marston over to Wybird. This is another piece in the Lincoln Basin project to tie into all of that with additional sidewalks and grass strips between the roads and sidewalks where possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach.
Why is there a gap? Is this future work?
This has already been done.
Yes, that was completed. So we're tying into that.
You kind of see the new sidewalks here, so we're matching that section with here. So when they did Wybird and Lincoln Street over here, this extended to here, but kind of stopped right here. So we're just connecting up to that at Marston.
There's a break in grade, so the slope of sewer and stormwater breaks at Marston Street. So that had been done previously, where this section goes closer towards Lafayette Road and drains that way.
Yeah, it really will fill in a gap that has been, they've had construction all around them. Fills in one of those last pieces.
I just point out it's a sidewalk and sewer project, but one of the starting points was meeting with Chuck Baxter, Max's predecessor, to think about impacts on trees and landscape, which is incredible, I think. Yeah. Have any questions about the project? Do we have a motion to recommend the requested removals?
I'll make that motion.
Dennis?
I'll second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just note, somebody had mentioned the original sidewalk projects that were done on Lincoln Ave, 15, 16, 17 years ago. From that date on, there's been a serious learning curve in terms of the impacts associated with these projects. When we did that Lincoln project, the contractor went through and literally took axes to, you know, major root sections of a lot of those big old mature trees through there. And unfortunately, you know, over time, we saw the decline of a lot of those trees, and as a result, you know, they had to be taken down. But, you know, we're trying, and we're really, you know, working with Max and his crew, come a long way relative to how we manage these projects, identify potential risks, critical trees that we want to, you know, protect. And there's been a, you know, in working with this committee, we've really learned a lot. And hopefully we will continue to do a good job with this, because it really, it's, you know, we obviously don't want to take trees out if we can avoid it. But sometimes it's better to do that and get a new tree in to allow it to start growing quicker than waiting for one to decline and
you said you come a long way. I'd say you come light years, and I congratulate and thank you very much.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Be done.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, Dennis, Nixon, obviously if you don't need that, so I gave up.
So we are done.
We're done.
Thank you all for.
All right.
Thank you all.
I'm going to stop recording.